welcome back to the channel, guys. Well, I hope you saw the last video I did where I fitted the full Lextek system to my GX. That's all fitted now. I'll link to the video at the top if you haven't seen that. But basically today I'm on my way to Steve Jordan Motorcycles in Leatherhead, and we're going to actually complete the mapping of this bike. We're going to flash it with the Woolwich software. We're going to unleash all of those hidden Suzuki ponies and get rid of all those pesky Suzuki restrictions. There's quite a few little things you can tweak when you map a bike, like you know, I can turn off the servo motor for the exhaust. You can even decide that when you close the throttle whether you want any injector still to put fuel in, and all sorts of little stuff we can actually do when you map. But most importantly, of course, is correcting the fueling so it will run properly with this exhaust. And the question is, how much power are we going to get out of this bike with the full system on it? I've not changed the air filter, so we've got standard air filter, but just the full system. If you like a bit of dyno tuning action and some of Steve's expertise, Steve has been doing this for years and years and years. You know, he used to run a race team. He's got a vast amount of experience, Steve. He's a really experienced guy when it comes to mapping bikes and all things motorcycle, really. So if you want a bit of tech insight, a bit of dyno mapping, a bit of excitement of flames being spat out the exhaust, this is the video for you. So set yourself down, make yourself comfortable, and chop C, roll the intro. So what we do, we've got the bike, she's on the dyno, and now we're going to do the first sort of base map, really, to see, not map, but base runs
to see what we've got. Obviously with the exhaust on it now, because we couldn't get the base runs the other day,
yeah,
because we didn't have the access file at that point, so we didn't run it with the stock system. But I think my guesstimate of about 130 with the stock system is probably not going to be far off. And then we'll see what we get with the Lextek system on it.
With the Lextek on.
Which I must say, I had a quick look at that, and it's quite nice and
400,
tidy. Yeah,
470 quid. You can't really argue with it, really, can you?
Look at the welding and stuff.
I know. I couldn't believe it when I unpackaged it. I was like, and even fitting it, there was no like, oh, that doesn't fit very well.
It all lined up.
That only thing which is a bit, that guard thing, obstruct the brake levers, a bit close to the brake lever.
Yeah.
So I've just got to bend that a bit.
Around with that bit, but yeah.
Yeah, for 470
no,
quid.
I had a quick look, and it's. I mean, we've seen them on smaller bikes. People have put them on scooters and 125s and stuff, and they're right. But I guess this is a step up for them. I don't know.
Yeah, but no one makes not many people make a full system for this. There's some people in the States who do them, but there's not. So I thought, well, Lextek, let's give it a go.
Let's give you some.
Yeah, old
ears.
Get the old Mickey Mouses on. Here we go. What's she gonna make? Just with the exhaust on.
So it should rev to 11.9.
Right.
At the moment, with the restrictions and stuff on there, we're only getting 10.
So it's revving to 10 and then it's tailing off, sort of thing.
It probably won't increase much in power.
Yeah.
But it will still probably climb up another couple of 3 horsepower. But you could see yourself and hear how if you were revving it that hard in 5th and 6th gear.
Yeah.
How it just hits a wall.
Hits a wall and stops.
And then in 4th it's doing it about 11.
Yeah.
The lower gears it pulls through, but
yeah. what's the air fuel like standard? So if someone's just fit that pipe without having it mapped?
So on full throttle, it's actually not too bad, which I'm not surprised at. But if I just get to that mouse down there, if you look, 60% throttle again is not too bad. Yeah. But your lower throttle is on the leaner side, and then it obviously then switches at different points, how it's programmed, to richer. And that is basically, if you're running a catalyser, it's to basically help heat the catalyser up. And also for your ride-by noise tests, ignition will be doing that, some of the fueling.
So if you were to fit that system and not get it mapped, you're not going to blow it up anyway.
You're not going to blow it up,
but it's not going to run as you really want it to.
No, and it's not going to feel as nice as it can.
Yeah, as it could do.
So yeah, it's not dangerous.
What power did it make?
It made 145.
145
with the system on.
That's not bad, is it, for just bolt on?
No, it varies bike to bike. Sometimes you find there's always loads to do low down.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're a little bit rich up the top. Varies, but this has got, I noticed, a little collector on it as well.
Yeah.
So it obviously helps with noise, but it also, that change in pressure can sometimes just help. If you had a straight through system with nothing in it, then it could change this full throttle fueling as well.
So you think that little mid box
so
is
that
actually
that could be helping?
Because also obviously because of the panniers, because they do a longer system for this, and because of the panniers though, of course you can't do it. So a short system normally lacks a bit of torque, doesn't it? But maybe that little...
Sometimes you generally, shorter can be more torque, less torque.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Length of the can, not necessarily the headers.
Right.
So obviously these headers, you can see they go out.
Yeah.
And then come back.
Yeah.
So the tuned length of the header to the collector is important.
Right.
Because power pulses come out of an exhaust, but they also do return back.
Yeah.
So you do get back pressure and the amount of back pressure. So I don't know whether these guys dyno flow this or what they do, or whether they're waiting to see what this result is.
Yeah.
They've probably got some sort of, a lot of people have got an exhaust program where you can, like a CAD for aerodynamics, you can do an AI simulated exhaust flow. There's loads of things online if you want to sit and watch about exhaust.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't even know.
So 2 strokes and 4 strokes are different, but they all have power pulses. They all have different pressures inside them, and the length of the silencer doesn't just do noise, it does the diameter of the tube, and the length also affects the gas speed, the way it scavenges the rest of the exhaust. So obviously the more you can get out, the more you can get in, but you also need a certain amount of pressure to stop it all.
Yes, and ideally we would have nice to have done a runs completely stock, wouldn't it, to comparison, but because the front wheel doesn't turn on this bike, Suzuki have enabled it so it basically goes into limp mode if the front wheel's not moving. So we wanted to do a base run, we came to do a base run, but unfortunately you can't do it. You need it flash to be able to do that.
We didn't have the access file to turn off those things at the time. So but I think with a stock system, I think somewhere around 130, maybe 135.
So what's the next plan, Steve?
I put my glasses on and stare at a screen for a while and change a load of numbers. And
so you look at the numbers from this one and then think, well, it needs a bit more here, a bit more
basically,
there.
I'll turn off a few more things in here.
Okay. So what can we turn off in here?
We'll turn off the speed limit, which will help with
this. Yeah, because these are restricted to 140 as well. That's something else which they...
Yeah, so this, I mean, I can give you a speed on the dyno, but obviously you've got to factor in that this has got resistance because it's a load cell, but you've not got the wind resistance on the bike, on you as a rider, etc., etc. Lower the fan temperature, so if you ride around in town and traffic, it can come on a little earlier. Only 5 degrees, don't go too slow, otherwise it'll be on all the time. We don't need to change the idle speed, it's fine. We'll turn off the O2 sensor, we'll turn off the exhaust valve. Fault code, because that's not on it anymore. At the moment that's off. When I finished, I'll put that back on, because obviously when you're riding it, you want that to function.
Yes.
Secondary air system's still on it, so we won't turn that off.
That gives some pops and bangs, can't it? I quite like a few pops and bangs
so
on these.
It basically, it puts more oxygen into the exhaust after combustion, so it has no performance gain, but literally it's to burn the gas second. So if you add oxygen to a hot gas, it'll light again, and then it cleans it. So that's what that's for, effectively. I can turn off the evap canister if you want. Basically, that's the breather. All bikes now have to have a breather that goes into a charcoal canister and back into the airbox, rather than where they used to just breathe into the airbox, again to clean the vapours, the breathed vapour out of the engine. So so effectively you've got pressure above a piston because it's an air pump, it's pumping air, but that pump also obviously pumps air underneath, but in that air underneath there's obviously oil in the bottom, so you get vapours. So you get all the vapours that then goes into the canister before it goes into the airbox and back through the engine. So turning that off doesn't give you any gains, but if you want it off because people want to take it off for a race bike or something, you can turn it off. So it's
turn it off, because I may remove it at some point for a weight
then
reduction.
It won't fault code. So all that does is turn off its fault code.
Okay, yeah, do that.
And then we'll turn off the fuel cut on the acceleration, just makes fuel transition a bit nicer on and off the throttle. Okay. This again is another thing to help clean up for emissions, but
so that's if your throttle's closed, it stops all the fuel. So you can get a bit of a snappy.
You can do, yeah. I mean, obviously, when you shut the throttle with that turned off, it doesn't still pump loads of fuel in. It just means the transition from on to off is nicer.
Smoother.
Again, these are all emissions-driven stuff for homologation.
Yeah. So it's nothing there to make the bike ride nicer. It's all just to get it for emissions control.
Yeah, we won't race that because there's no point. Yeah, it's fine. And then I will go through and look at all the ignition maps and do that. So I've got ignition maps.
And what will you do? Take a similar bike from the one you've done, or will be from scratch?
No, this will be different because this has got a lot of minus numbers in here. So I need to understand what I'm going to put in there. I need to have a look and think about that and work out where I'm going to go with that. Yeah. And then I've got fuel maps. So I've got intake air pressure.
Oh yeah.
And then I've got throttle position sensor. So this is your main throttle maps. Yeah. As you're loading the throttle, you've also got the engine uses intake air pressure for low idle and low speed. Yeah. And low throttle, low speed is not true. Low throttle opening. So cruising throttle can run off of this as well. But
and you know you've got different power maps. What does your map override all of them, or do you have to work in one?
So in here also I've got the electronic throttle maps. So you've got all your power modes there.
1, 2, 3, yeah.
And then all your gears. So I need to go through all of those and look at that and decide which, what I'm going to. Generally in these, lift them up a little bit lower down.
Yeah. So would you lift all the power maps though, or just work in one?
No, I'll do all of them.
Do them all.
Yeah. Oh, wow. So that's why it takes a while.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So it's time for another cup of tea for me then.
So
while
it's
you
a cup
work
of
your
tea
maggots.
for you while I
magic.
get my glasses on and do some numbers.
Do you want a cuppa while I'm down there?
Yeah, I will do actually. It's nearly 1 o'clock, isn't it?
Yeah. Bit of silverware, bit of racing heritage with Steve. He knows what he's doing. So Steve has worked his magic. So he's done his zeros and ones. He's had his playing around with the ignition and throttle. So now basically that what Steve has adjusted is now copied back to the ECU on the bike. So now we run it up again and see what difference it's made basically, and see where else he needs to concentrate his efforts.
One's over there.
Yeah. Right, here we go. Gonna need these.
Remarkably good.
Remarkably good, oh brilliant.
I mean, there's not a lot of point in sodding around with the fueling.
Yeah.
I mean, that's gone up to just under 153.
Just under 153. Bloody hell.
Even the fueling lower down is actually, I'm looking at it thinking, it's not a lot.
Not much wrong with it.
Yeah, I mean, some of that is obviously the way the exhaust, they've obviously got the exhaust pretty good.
Oh, really?
Taking the O2 sensor out of the equation, I don't know if you just turn the fan.
Yeah.
You can see, you can obviously hear now that it's revving.
Yeah.
Obviously the power drops off at the top,
Yeah.
but it's pulling right through to the limiter now.
Yeah.
So you've not got that drop off. So the peak power has now moved up to just over 11, whereas before I think it was about 9.
Yeah.
So even like low down, you can see the fueling now is pretty flat.
Yeah.
It's not. You could mess around. You're not going to gain a lot though.
No.
It's good.
Yeah.
Now and again you do get it.
Just
Quite frequently GSX-R750s, some of the later ones, even with exhaust on, when you do the other bits, take the O2 sensor out of the equation, the fueling is pretty good.
Yeah. Wow.
There's a little bit, maybe just a tiny bit on real small throttle openings I'll look at, but now you can see the, let me find you, so you've got a comparison. So that's
before and after.
before and after, so you can see where it wouldn't rev hitting the limit, the restriction there,
Yeah.
and then obviously now it pulls all the way through, and then with
God, you got
throttle
nice-
plate and ignition changes on their own.
It's a nice bit of increase in the mid-range there.
And the
isn't it?
torque, difference in the torque there, flattening the torque curve out. Although the fueling looks very similar because I haven't changed it,
Yeah.
but obviously the other things, the difference that's made. So you can see where
Yeah, you can see.
you can put a power commander and do fueling, but you can't do the other things, and you would never get that.
And that's all to do with taking off those restrictions of the throttle blades closing.
Throttle
and all
blades,
the rest of
ignition.
it. Yeah.
And you can't do that unless you do this.
Yeah. So it's the only way to tune them properly, really, isn't it?
Well, yeah, now that's
Literally,
why, that's
yeah,
why
so-
cars have been tuned that way
Yeah.
for God knows how long. It's been really good. So,
But you haven't played with the fueling at all yet. You've just done ignition and throttle bodies.
yeah. And
throttle
obviously
body
we've
over-
taken the O2 sensor out, so it's
Yeah.
not controlling.
Right, I see. So it's not overwriting.
Overwriting.
Yeah.
It's running off that fueling table. The O2 sensor is not. What we haven't got access to on this is an AFR
Yeah.
table to change. So
Right.
the O2 sensor or the oxygen sensor has an O2 an oxygen table, AFR table that it'll be looking at. And so it can't work to that because it can't read it
Because it can't
anymore.
read it,
We've
yeah.
turned the fault off, so it won't fault code for it. So now it's using the fueling table.
100% the fueling table rather than So do you think it's worth even doing anything with the fueling now?
I might do a little tiny bit low down. So
Tweak.
I was saying to you previously, so that was 10% throttle
Yeah.
before we changed any of the throttle plate maps and ignition. That's 10% throttle now. That's an 8 horsepower gain.
So you literally just
You
wasn't-
look how
And what-
I've revved it a little further, but
Yeah.
it would not. The power was going like that.
Yeah. Just because it wasn't opening the throttle, it wasn't equaling what you were doing
You're
on the
asking,
twist grid.
you're asking for 10%, and it was giving you about 1.2.
Yeah.
It's not giving you 10% now because that would be
Yeah.
too aggressive.
Yeah.
But you've got, so for instance, so I've only opened it up a small percentage. So, but
Yeah.
instead of getting 1.2% throttle, you're getting about 6% now.
Right. Yeah.
It still needs to have a nice progression to it. If you
Yeah.
made it one-to-one like an old-fashioned
Yeah,
cable,
you-
it wouldn't work on this type of bike. It would,
Okay.
you would ride it and you just go, oh, it's too aggressive, I cannot.
Right. Okay.
I've had people ask me to do that, and
Yeah,
I've
you've
gone,
done it and-
they've gone, no. I go, okay. And then they've come back and gone, no, sorry, you were right.
You're
I can't
right.
ride that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Okay.
you still have that build progression,
Yeah.
but it's more responsive now.
Yeah.
This is not quite as much, but some of the Yamahas, I have to say to people, give yourself a chance, because they're used to doing that to get it to go.
Yeah.
Now when you open the throttle, it will go. So if you ride it in the same manner, you'll be up in the air. So basically, I've not ridden this yet, but I don't know whether you found sometimes you quite often say when I'm going to overtake something, I open the throttle to overtake and it doesn't feel like it's doing anything.
No, exactly. Yeah. But
That's
hesitation.
that's what it is.
That's the
It's
throttle
just-
blade,
it's not
it's
necessarily hesitation. It's just it's not open as far.
not.
Your brain's going, I want to
I want to
go, and the bike's going, well, yeah, I'll get there in a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
You can't really argue with it, can you?
No, and you'd say it's a good step increase in power.
Yeah. Well, 153 is pretty at the back wheel.
Yeah,
is,
yeah, that is.
decent, isn't it?
Yeah. What I'll probably do is I'll have a look through the table, through my runs, and I may just do a tiny little
tweak. And if say 153, what's at their back wheel? What's that roughly at the crank then? Do you reckon?
You'd either times it or divide it by 0.9. I can't remember which way round it is.
Oh, is that?
Yeah. So 170.
That 170 at the crank.
I don't know what they claim for those.
150 though, you reckon at standard, 150 at the crank. So that's pretty reasonable, isn't it?
Mm.
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
Yeah, they might be starting to be conservative.
Yeah.
Sometimes they get a little bit excited with their numbers.
That's right.
They go all sort of Italian.
So there we go, 153, better drive in the middle. It's really annoying that we couldn't do the base run before I swapped the exhaust. It bugs me we couldn't see what it was on the standard, but hey ho, it is what it is. We couldn't do that. But yeah, 153, big improvements. That's good, isn't it? 153. I thought about 150. I was hoping to hit the 150 mark, or close to, but 153. I know it's peak figure. It means nothing. It means nothing really, the peak power figures. But yeah, happy with that. So Steve's just going to go have a little tweak with the fuel in, and then load that back onto the bike, and then one more run, and I think we'll be done. So that was actually really easy. Because of Steve's expertise, he's got it bang on almost from the get-go, you know, just looking at the ignition and looking at the throttle blade opening. But yeah, happy with that. One more little tweak and she'll be good to go. See what we get. So Steve's just done some more changes. You put a little bit more ignition advance and a little bit more fuel at full throttle, you said, Steve, yeah? Just to see what happened.
Yeah, so basically we've so on the intake air pressure map I put a small amount of fuel in, just for showing you 10 and 20% sort of throttle openings to have pardon me, to just richen it up a little bit if you like. Idle, I put a little bit into the idle area just so it does the same thing, and then on main throttle map, obviously, which is in gear, not in neutral, very small. You probably can't even see it. I've taken a little bit out of there, looking at a couple of the lower throttle runs, and I've put a very small amount of fuel in, a couple of percent higher up, with a tiny bit of ignition at the top of the rev range, so up in this sort of area, and we'll see if that
see how it responds
basically
to
responds or doesn't respond to that, really.
That's quite nice that it's so close, isn't it? It gives you a bit more time just to, maybe you wouldn't have time to sometimes always do that, would you? I guess if it takes you a long time to get the fuel in.
I am
or do you
terrible like that. I will sit and
you stay all night to get it right?
I get it. I want it. I'm doing it and I want it right. Some people might just go, well, that'll do, but I'm not like that. So
yeah, that's what you want, isn't it?
I want to try and make it as best as I can make it.
That's what you want as a customer, that's for sure.
Right, shut
be ready to.
Yeah, I'll shut the door. Time to do the little bits.
Yeah. Oh really? Oh wow. What's that? What's that? 156?
155 for.
155.
You can see now with that little bit of ignition and a slight fueling change.
Wow, that's
I've changed nothing else. So you can see I've made it a little bit richer.
Yeah.
I put a little bit more ignition in. and then so we've gained from all the way up there to there.
Wow.
Nothing else has changed. And I'm running that, you could see, what I was waiting for is temperature, so
Yeah.
76, 78 degrees.
Yeah, that's the wow.
These are our full power runs. The green one, if you can see this colour where it drops, that was a soft limiter, your top speed limiter in 5th and 6th gear,
Yeah.
which is standard. So as you said, you experienced it just
On the
dying
Autobahn.
on you, and sort
Yeah.
of like someone's pulling you backwards.
On the Autobahn, guys, not on the UK
On the
roads.
UK
just to
roads,
add.
yeah. So now we've removed that, and then obviously we've mapped fueling, and then we've mapped ignition, and we've mapped electronic throttle controls. You can see the blue line was our first adjusted map,
Yeah.
and then we've obviously gained in these places here. The fueling trace looks very similar, but
Yeah.
obviously all of those items I've just mentioned have changed, and
Yeah.
you can see the difference in the torque, particularly
Yeah.
in this bit, which is 6 to sort of 9, which is sort of
Some
vary or
real
spend a
world
lot of
stuff,
time.
innit? Yeah.
And then the red line is the last one that I've just done, where I tried a little bit more fuel and some more ignition adjustments after my base ignition map that I wrote. And then you can see the gains we've got there, we've increased again.
So to start with, we're 145, then 152, and then 155.4.
Rear wheel.
Rear wheel power, yeah. Wow. So it probably is around, no, we did a little small calculation, it's probably 175-ish horsepower the crank.
Crank, yeah.
With the, yeah. So yeah, so a pipe and a grand for that pipe, your expertise mapping, and you've got a bike which is...
I mean, this is a nice number,
yeah.
and this is full throttle.
Yeah.
And there are obviously other graphs I'll print for you to take away from lower throttle positions. So I'll give you 10, 20, 30, 40,
Yeah.
60 and 70, 75%.
Yeah.
I won't print every single one off because we'd have a big thick wad of paper like that. But you'll see the gains lower down, and it's about trying to make the bike ride consistently to your throttle inputs all the way through. So it is linear rather than throttle plates opening and closing and it backing off and feeling snatchy and low down, not feeling very nice, coming off of corners, coming off of roundabouts, things like that.
Because full throttle's all very well in it, but it's rideability, it's those sort of changes you're talking about.
Everybody likes to say they're on full throttle all the time, but realistically,
No, you're not.
you know,
Yeah.
you're not.
Yeah.
You're riding in part throttle most of the time, accelerating hard in lower gears and things like that. So that's the important bit.
Yeah.
And trying to generate a nice torque curve. And when you look at that, that's quite a nice flat torque curve.
Nice. Yeah.
And a 1000cc engine is big for a bike, but it's quite small relatively.
Yeah.
You know, you get some of the Hayabusas ZZR 1400s and stuff like that. Then the torque, we're talking up towards 100 foot-pound of torque, or you get a big V-twin of some sense. Sometimes the torque's more than the power.
Yeah. Oh, really? Can you see that?
And it'll start right down here. So peak torque on a big twin will be right down there.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. Pull a tree stump out with.
So you're going to have a little spin on it now, just
I'm just going to print some bits off.
Happy.
Print some bits off. Put everything back where it should be.
Yeah.
And then go for a little ride around the block, up the road. Just make sure I'm happy.
Yeah.
And you can head back to Hampshire then.
Yeah.
Before it gets too cold.
Oh, it's all too late for that. It's already too cold. There we go. All done. So there we go, all done. I mean, huge thanks to Steve for sorting that out for me. Huge thanks for Woolwich for providing me the map code so we can use it. And of course, massive thanks to Lextek for making such a good system for 470 quid. So I think the final result was 155 horse, 155.5 or 0.4 on full throttle, but the difference is, the rideability difference is that that part throttle, 20, 30, 40% throttle. That's where making the most amount of rideable difference. Hang on a sec. If you want your bike mapped, it's around about £500, depending on the bike. So some bikes are a bit less, some are a bit more, depending how easy or hard it is to get to the ECU. So what that does mean is, say 500 quid to map it, 470 quid for the exhaust. For under £1,000, you've got a bike which is fully unlocked, fully uncorked, sounds decent. So, you know, so that's not bad, is it? £1,000 for an exhaust and the mapping. So massive thanks to Steve and Sarah, really appreciated. Now I'm just looking forward to jumping on it and trying it for myself.